Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where we're again looking at the underrated and underappreciated DPSs in SWTOR, and today we're scraping the bottom of the barrel because yes, we are looking at the Sith Assassin or Jedi Shadow. You know what I say about the Sith Assassin applies to the Shadow because they're the same class. I'm just going to use the Sith Assassin terminology for this video, but again it applies to the Shadow. And the reason I'm doing it is because I don't have a Shadow at 55 and I have an Assassin at 55, so I feel like I can talk about the Sith Assassin. And where do we start? Where do we start with this class? Again, probably the most unique class in the game, given that we are basically a sort of cross between a rogue and a mage that can tank. I mean, there you go. We're one of the most unique classes in the game, and one of the most undervalued, both as a DPS and as a tank. I feel like BioWare should really do more to sell this class. I mean, come on, this is probably one of the highest in terms of skill level in order to play a DPS assassin fairly well. You have to be, again, you have to have that skill that some other classes just you don't need to have. Look at a Marauder or a Sorcerer. Again, they're very simple, very straightforward. Snipers as well, they're pretty straightforward. Whatever you hit does damage, really. You can just hit. As a sniper, you can just put your face on the keyboard and hope for the best, and you'll still do reasonable damage. As an assassin, we really have to work. We really have to work for our things. Our DPS. And the spec I prefer to play is Deception spec. I don't play Madness because I don't feel like an assassin. You know, Deception, you pick an assassin because I like rogues. I like rogues. That's one of the reasons. We have two choices in SWTOR if you like rogues. You can play an assassin or an operative. And we'll get to the operative later because the operatives are our nemesis when it comes to PvE. PvP, they're not really our nemesis, but PvE, we hate operatives, and I'll explain why later on. So what does an assassin bring to the table in terms of PvE, in terms of operations? Well, we do bring a stealth res. That's one of our main utility things, is our ability to stealth res. However, it is a 15-minute cooldown on our out of combat res. Yeah, thanks BioWare. Yeah, again, if you look at the operatives, they have 0 cooldown on their out of combat res. They have a 2-minute cooldown on their stealth, on their out of combat stealth. What is it called? Disappearing Act? No, that's the scoundrel one. Is Disappearing Act. They get a 2-minute cooldown, so every 2 minutes they can res someone. 5 minutes is the combat res cooldown, but they can res someone every 2 minutes if they don't get hit. We, on the other hand, can only res one person. And I don't like that. I mean, all healing classes have no cooldown on their out of combat res. So again, the operatives get that nice advantage in terms of utility. In terms of straight up DPS, once again, we are living in the shadow, pardon the pun, of the scoundrels and the operatives in terms of our utility, in terms of our damage output. We are a single target class, okay? We have no AOE really to speak of. We do have Overload, which is not an AOE, let's be honest. If you want to piss off people in the group by using Overload, then do that. Believe you piss off a lot of snipers and a lot of sorcerers by doing that. I hate that. Doing Kuat drive yards as a sorcerer, you'd put out your Force Storm, you'd have it sitting there, and then some idiot assassin would use Overload. Oh, that's my AoE. Yeah, you just pushed everyone out of my Force Storm AoE. Thank you very much. Hate that. And again, we've got we look at our operative. We look enviously at these operatives. God damn them operatives. They've got Orbital Strike, which is one of the best and most powerful AoEs in the game, despite its nerf. Despite its damage being nerfed, it's still pretty awesome. Again, you can just fire it off. It's a fire and forget ability, basically, Orbital Strike. We'll talk more about that in the operative video. But we don't really get anything. I mean, I would love to see us get some AoE. I think that's what we need. I'd love to see us get Lightning Storm. That would be nice to get. or at least a version of that, some sort of version of Lightning Storm. If you're in Madness, you do get Death Field, but it's not really that useful, and you don't really use it on ads. If you look at fights with ads like Titan 6, or we look at the Writhing Horror and Terror from Beyond, we're not really wanting to use the Death Field on the ads, because we tend to use it on the boss, because again it gives our dots that little bit more damage. It puts the death mark on the target, which again increases the periodic damage that it takes in Madness. Madness is a dot spec. Deception is more of a burst damage. Deception, I have to say, was one of the most fun specs to level with. I had the most fun leveling with my Assassin, and I've leveled nearly every character now. Still got a Juggernaut and an Assassin to go, but the Assassin was the most fun. It was awesome. You'd have Chem Val, your big meat shield, send him in, get in behind, and just maul everything. That was pretty awesome. You could one-shot a lot of enemies with maul. It was pretty decent, but it never really does much end game. Again, our big problem is similar to the Vanguard with our single target DPS, is its resources. It's keeping that force up that's a big problem. We do have several procs. We are a very proc based class as well. That's another thing that kind of annoys you, is again we have to have everything line up for us. We do have a few things. We do have Recklessness, which again gives us our proc on Discharge. And we also, yeah, again we get that little proc on Discharge. We get the 3 stacks of the Discharge buff. That again we can put on. I think, what does it do? It increases, I think it just increases the damage of Discharge. So we get our three basic stances are our charges. What we do is we charge our Lightsaber. We are the only class in the game that can use a double-bladed Lightsaber, so we look cool as well. It's one of the coolest looking classes, because we are, again, the only class. Come on, BioWare, we need more. We need more from this class. This is the most unique class in the game. Let's not make it hard, let's make it fun. It's pretty fun in PvP, you have to say. Deception spec is pretty awesome in PvP. We are good, but again, we're living in that shadow of them Operatives with their off healing. God damn them. That's one of the things that we don't bring utility-wise, is off tanking. Forget it. Forget it. You press that taunt button, you might as well press slash stuck. Because you press that taunt button, you're wearing light armor, remember. And to tank effectively as an assassin, you really have to be in the tanking tree. If you're not in the tanking tree, you're dead. Basically, you're dead. Don't matter the healers. Doesn't matter. You press taunt as a DPS assassin, goodbye. It's basically the suicide button. It's like slash stuck, basically. You will die because you have light armor, very little mitigation, and again, we are probably one of the weakest of the DPS classes. We're not really a burden to the healer. We're not marauders. We're not going to pull aggro with our DPS. But again, I would like to see a little bit more. I'd love to see an AOE. I want an AOE. God damn it, give us an AOE, BioWare. We do have that spinning slash thing, but it's just a resource drain. It's not worth it. If you look at, we do bosses with ads, we just ignore the ads. I don't even go to the ads. As soon as the jealous male spawns in first boss in TFB, I'm straight there, straight to the gel, or just keep DPSing the boss until everyone else is finished and goes to the jealous male. That's what we have to do. We have nothing. We ignore the ads again in Titan 6. No point in us doing that. But that's one of the things. We need that. Give us an AOE. Come on, BioWare. Give us an AOE. You look at the 2.7 patch notes as well. And again, we look at our nemesis. We look at them Operatives. Goddamn Operatives. Hate them. Hate them, we do. As assassins, we look at them enviously. And we see what they've got. They're getting the chance to use Backblast without being behind the target. Where's our maul without being behind the target? That's what I have to say. Can we have a similar proc? It would be nice. Again, we've got to keep all our procs up. That's one of the biggest things. We do have a proc on maul. We do have Duplicity, which increases our direct damage attacks, causes our next maul to deal 30% more damage, and it costs less force, I guess. But again, we only have 100, what is it, 110 force we can have in deception because we get the extra 10 force. Thank you for that. Unless we wear healer gear. Can we get 50 force from healer gear, can we? If we get that healer, I've never tried it, but I wouldn't recommend it because we need accuracy anyway, and healer gear has no accuracy. And I guess I could just put the healer armoring in again. Would that work? I'm thinking about that. Might go buy some healer gear. Might go and get me some healer gear set bonus. Would that give us an extra 50 force? Or I bet you have to be a sorcerer to take advantage of that with the set bonus. Just betting. If anyone knows, please tell me, because I'm going to go try that actually when this video finishes. I'm going to go try that when this video finishes recording. Right, so what else have we got? We've got our charges. We'll talk about our charges again. Our 3 charges that we've got. We've got lightning charge, surging charge, dark charge. Dark charge is your tank one, lightning charge is your madness, and surging charge is your deception. Again, that's what we do. We charge up our double-bladed saber. The charges have different effects. Again, we're going to use them just for each of the 3 skill trees. Kind of similar to the mercenary with their what's it called again? The cells that they have for each different tree. Each charge brings us a benefit that we've got. And the worst thing about this is having to keep up the proc for shock. I mean, I hate that proc. You always forget about it. You always forget your Voltic Slash. So you're kind of always in there and you're like, ah, damn it, you use it twice and it procs shock. So shock will trigger your surging charge. And it stacks up to 2 times. I'd like to see the 2 stacks removed and just go down to 1 stack, please. It would just make it easier to manage, because the amount of times you're like, ah, damn it, I forgot about that. And again, we have to be in melee range. Again, we suffer the same problem to an extent as the Vanguard in terms of range classes without a leap. We do have force speed though. That's our one thing that we do have, and we can stand pretty close to the boss without aggroing. We have to be careful on some bosses. Some flashpoint bosses have stealth detection, so we just have to be a bit careful that we don't pull. Again, pulling is instant death for us as an assassin. So I think I've covered everything I really wanted to cover. I don't go in depth in madness because I just don't like it. We don't feel like an assassin. Again, we'll cover more in the operative video as to why the operative is superior. I mean, again, BioWare tends to love the operative a lot more than they love us. I would like to see a bit more love going into the assassin. Maybe make the specs a bit less fiddly. Assassin tank I have no real experience of, to be honest with you. Don't really want to tank on the assassin. They're generally considered to be pretty weak. I mean, I have healed a few of them. One of the things we don't want to do as a healer is be a sorcerer healer and have an assassin tank. It's horrible, because we are pretty poor at tank healing as a sorcerer. But we'll cover all the DPS classes. Now 2.7 launches the day this video is going to go up. I'm going to put this video up while the servers are down for 2.7, but there's no real changes. I'm going to have a look at the patch notes here for 2.7 just quickly. Yeah, there's no real changes. There's change to spike stuns rather than knockdowns, and Voltic Slash no longer requires us to spend points in Impose Weakness, which again, we're using Impose Weakness anyway, so I don't really see how that affects us. There's no real changes for 2.7, not like the Sorcerers and the Smugglers, really. They're getting quite a few big changes. A few changes to the Mercenary. We'll have a little look at those classes. We'll have a little more in-depth look at the Sorcerer we'll do first. So next time we'll take a little look at the Sorcerer. Sorcerer, not an underrated DPS. I have to say, one of probably the best classes to play, and one of the easiest in terms of rotation to play in the game. But I'm going to take a look at them next because of the big changes that they're going through. Well, not really the big changes. It's actually going to change to be made easier. Yeah, they're being made easier. One of the easiest classes to play in the game is being made easier, and we'll talk about that. A bit more in depth. So thank you for joining me in this assassin video, and I'll see you soon, and goodbye.